Okay, welcome back to Campus Pressbox, episode number 27. I'm Damien Bowman along with Mike Wilson. Mike, how are you?
Doing good. How's everything in Cleveland?
Everything in Cleveland is fine. It is 75 and sunny today, so I feel like I'm in San Diego, which I'd rather be there all year, but that's a different conversation for a different podcast, I guess. Big weekend in college sports, so let's get to the big stuff here. Let's start with Randy Edsall was fired by the University of Maryland on Sunday after losing to Ohio State on Saturday. The first half of the game was much closer than many people would have liked to have seen. And then at the end of the game, Ohio State won by, I think, 3 touchdowns. I'm not exactly sure the final score there. After which he had an interesting press conference with a reporter who basically wanted to know why he was shaking hands with his players. Edsall goes off on the reporter and says, basically I do this after every game. Don't come here and try to incite, whatever drama that you're trying to incite. And then on Sunday, he gets fired. So I don't think anybody's really surprised that this happened. I'm not really sure what the expectations are of the people of Maryland, but we'll get into that. But first, why don't you give me some initial thoughts?
Well, I mean, from what I, reading about the whole press conference and the guy that was trying to get something out of Edsall and Edsall trying to play him off a little bit, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, let's face it, when you are a football coach, especially at the level that Coach Edsall is at, and you don't win, these are the things that come to fruition for you. You get your pink slip and you get asked to go somewhere else to coach. And, as much as I saw some people, kind of complaining about the question from the reporter, maybe that reporter knew something, kind of that something was up and wanted to maybe get a little bit of a jump start on it. But, in my humble opinion, he's gone because he didn't win. And, and I go back to what you just said, Damien. I mean, what are the expectations for Maryland football? Are the fan base a little out of touch and thinking they're going to be in the playoff, kind of picture? Are they, they looking at bigger picture and trying to get to, a bigger bowl game, or they're going to be in contention for the Big Ten every year? I don't know exactly what the expectations are at Maryland at all. But, if it was me and I'm a Maryland grad, the expectations have to be somewhat tempered. I mean, to me, that's a basketball school. It's never been a football school. So whatever the football program can generate in terms of excitement for the whole athletic program, I mean, it benefits everybody. But I don't, my expectation for Maryland would be, and I think you and I talked about this on a podcast in the early spring, was, middle of the pack in the Big Ten. So I don't, like you said, I don't know what the expectations really are there. I mean, what do you think?
Well, I think that Maryland plays in the Big Ten East, and they have to look at Ohio State, Michigan, and Michigan State, Penn State, and Rutgers every year. And I think that's a tough division to play in. It's not to the same level as the SEC West, but it's certainly no cupcake of a schedule now, especially now that Michigan appears to be on the right track. Obviously, it's just a very small sample size, but I think football drives the revenue at Maryland, and whatever their expectations are, I think that they need to understand that it isn't going to be as easy as they want it to be. Now, that said, I don't know if Edsall, maybe raised their expectations a little bit, and maybe they thought that after they fired Ralph Region that things were going to be significantly easier for them to win. For the record, I was never a fan of that move, and I don't want to live in history, and I don't think that they should bring him back, but I'm not really sure who they're going to get that's going to be better. Bo Pelini's name has been tossed around. If I'm Bo Pelini, that's not the Big Ten school that I go to, but that's just me personally. I don't know where he goes, Pelini, if he goes anywhere, and I don't know where Edsall goes, but the conversation for today is about Maryland and where they go and who they get, and honestly, I don't know, who would be interested in that job, knowing that they have to face Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, and Penn State every year.
Yeah, I mean, that is a very daunting gauntlet that you would have to face every year. And I don't know who is out there, like you said, Pelini was mentioned, but I when I saw that and saw you talking about it a little bit, I'm with you. I don't see Pelini going there. That's not where that wouldn't be an attractive job for me if I was Pelini. So I don't know who they expect to get. We don't know who's going to be out on the market. Once the season ends. I mean, there's always, in college football, there always seems like the NFL. There's like a Black Monday or Black Tuesday in terms of coaches getting fired. But right now, I mean, I think we even talked about, when Edsall took the job, and he came from UConn. That move from UConn to Maryland was a lateral move for him. And if you were going to go somewhere in the Big Ten, try and go to like a Penn State or, something like that, if you want to step up in competition. But I don't know what Maryland's going to do. I don't know what Maryland thinks or who they think that they can get to come there. Do you have any thoughts? Besides Pelini name being thrown out there, who else might be available?
I think if their thoughts are to go with someone younger, I think that they could go in the direction of PJ Fleck, which is the head coach at Western Michigan, and I think Dino Babers at Bowling Green has done a nice job there. They've been in the last year they were in the MAC championship, and this year they beat Maryland actually. So I think that that's a name that could work for them. I don't know if their plan is to try and go after someone a bit more established, who is a coach, either an assistant or a head coach at a Power 5 school. But I don't see a on staff already hired Power 5 coach that would consider the Maryland job. And money is money, but I can't think of many places that would go from a Power 5 school to Maryland that would not either be a lateral move or a move in the wrong direction. So I don't know. So I guess if I had to pick right now, it would be either Fleck or Babers. And then if not those two, then somebody from some other, non-Power 5 that I can't think of right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of people out here in the West that would consider it. And nobody's coming to mind at all. I mean, there might be a cleaning house at USC, but I don't see anybody in the Pac-12 or even like in the Big West that would take a chance going out to Maryland. Like you said, have it either just being a lateral move or kind of a step down in terms of the job. So yeah, it's going to be a tough road to hoe for Maryland when it comes to finding their new coach.
I think that they might be able to find. I think their best bet is to probably find someone who can recruit the Midwest, because that's where the Big Ten footprint is already, and maybe someone to the South in ACC country. So I guess you could see maybe an assistant from an ACC or an SEC school who has kind of been on everybody's radar, who wants to kind of dip their toe in the water. And playing or coaching, in the Big Ten is, we could talk about Big Ten football, but it's still the Big Ten, and it's one of the biggest stages in college football. So I think it would be someone from east of the Mississippi if I were going to be a betting man.
Probably, because then you would assume, like you said, if they go for someone in that Big Ten area, that Big Ten conference, or someone to the South, take someone off of Clemson or, that has established recruiting footprint in that area and could bring some talent up to, College Park, right? Up there. Then I think that's, like you said, that's probably the way that they should go. So it'll be interesting to see what they do though. And who's going to, like you said, put their foot in the water with this. So.
A random name that just came to me that makes somewhat sense is Butch Davis.
Oh, yeah.
Like that literally just came to my head. It's Butch Davis. I mean, coached at North Carolina, coached for the Browns. So, I mean, he's got some presence in Ohio, and obviously Maryland, Baltimore Ravens and all that. So, I mean, that's kind of a name that, I mean, I guess maybe if he wants to get back in, that would work. The other name is Greg Schiano. So I know he's been looking, and he's been candidate a few times at some other jobs for the past year or two. And he was, I don't know if he was on the finalist list at Michigan, but I know he interviewed there. Schiano could work at Maryland.
Oh, that would be an interesting hire, bringing in Schiano. So, yeah, like I said, I mean, we'll see what happens with all this, but yeah, I mean, it's just going to be a tough. I don't know if it's going to be how big of a sale pitch they really have to do with it, but I mean, it's going to be good enough that it's going to be a possible problem for them.
Well, I think the best thing they can do is look, we're in the Big Ten, and you can always sell your recruits on going to Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State every year, and then across the water to Wisconsin and Nebraska every 5 or 6 years, and that's what it is. And I think that's the best thing you can sell all your recruits on. So when you put it like that, again, it's the Big Ten, so I don't know if it's really that hard, but it's a matter of the people of Maryland maintaining, or at least realizing where they are in the college football hierarchy, and not thinking that they're going to compete with Ohio State and Michigan at the upper level every year. What's going on with Steve Sarkisian?
Steve Sarkisian has a drinking problem. And I think I raised this. I know I raised it with just, friends of mine that I talk with. I go, back in August, I think there might be a bigger issue here. I mean, you're at a benefit. I mean, granted, people are drinking, and all that kind of thing, but to be dropping F-bombs and all that kind of stuff around those kind of people, it's probably not something you want to do. Watching the Trojans play Arizona State a few weeks ago, being down on the field as they came out the tunnel, Sark was all fired up. He was John with the student section right there as they came out the tunnel. And he was giving them the bird, giving them the middle finger as he went to his sideline. And, if his demeanor or his goal was to get a reaction out of the crowd at ASU, he certainly got it. And this whole thing of him showing up drunk, pretty much to practice and being told to go home and now take a leave of absence, I would say that I'm shocked if I was. But based on what I actually saw in person, and then what happened back at that Trojan benefit in August, and now you hear of things at Washington. I don't know. I don't know what Haden's ultimate culpability in all this is going to be, but to me, he's kind of had his face buried in the sand with the face of his program in terms of his coach. So Sark is I don't think Sark's a bad guy. I don't. But Sark has a problem that has to be dealt with, that he has to deal with on a personal level. That I'm rooting for him to get better, but he needs to take as much time as possible to do that. And if that means USC has to cut ties with him at some point over this, because SC has to kind of think about where they're going to go with all of this, and what Sark has done kind of to the shield, so to speak, of USC. So it's a sad situation for sure down in LA. So.
Okay, so first let me say that everything that you said is they're all allegations. Nothing has been proven, nothing, whatever, except for the thing at the benefit, which, we podcasted about that a few months ago or right after it happened or whatever. And I said at the time, if that was all it was, then I didn't think it was a big deal. And I still say that, like, if that's all it was, then I don't think being drunk and cussing at people is a terrible thing. I think it happens more often than we think about it, or happens more often than we know about it, and it is what it is. That said, if these problems extended to Washington, And even before that, when he was an assistant at USC, which is more of a problem, and people at Southern Cal knew that before they hired him, and Haden didn't clear that with anybody, didn't run it up the flagpole and say, hey, this guy might have a problem, but I still want to give him a chance, then it's all on Haden. And I think that once they are legally allowed to release Sarkisian from his contract, which they can't because of ADA and FMLA regulations, then Haden should go out the door with him if he knew about this. That said, the other part of this, if there are assistant coaches, and this is all in the coaches, I don't blame the players because they're players. But if there are assistant coaches who thought that he was intoxicated, high, under the influence of anything, whatever, while coaching a game or at practice, and didn't let Haden or a compliance officer know, then they should be fired as well. There comes a point in life when if you care about someone and you're going to talk about this guy is my friend and that guy's my friend, and you aren't willing to do whatever it is to make sure that he gets help, then you are just as culpable as he is. Because when people are addicted to alcohol and drugs or sex or gambling or whatever the addiction is, typically they can't help themselves. And if you're that person's friend, you need to do whatever it takes to make sure they get the help. And if that hurts the employment situation, then it hurts the employment situation. That's what it is.
I absolutely agree. And just seeing and reading some of these reports and allegations that came from Washington while he was up there, people saying and players saying that, he smelled of alcohol at meetings, more than once. And like you said, if Haden knew this and had reports of this and he didn't run it up the chain of command at USC, then yeah, he absolutely needs to go. And any coach that was an enabler that covered up Sark's problem needs to go, because I am in 100% agreement with you. If you are a friend to that person and you care about that person, you don't want to see that person hurt. You want to see that person get better, and you will, as a friend, you will do anything and anything to ensure that that person gets his help. And I sincerely hope that the people at USC and his friends, coaches, help him do that. But if they were covering up, then they need to pay the price as well. So I just having personal experience with this kind of stuff, like way too much in my life. It's, I know how this goes, and I know how people who have a drinking problem can hide things, and they're belligerent and they don't want help, and they don't, all that kind of stuff. They need to help him. They need to put football aside for a moment and help a person in need right now. So.
Right. And the obvious will happen as soon as the season is over. USC will do whatever they do to announce that, Sarkisian is no longer the head coach, but he is still employed by the university so that they protect themselves, which is fine. This is going to come out wrong, but I don't care about that stuff. Like, I don't care what the logistics of how this works. The next question for USC is they have to get through Notre Dame this week, and they have to get through their remaining schedule. And after that, the most important question in the offseason is who is going to be the next coach. And Sarkisian has, only been at USC for a short amount of time, and I have almost never heard of an employee who leaves on indefinite suspension or leave of absence or whatever fancy term they're using here because of a drug and alcohol problem returning after that indefinite leave of absence. So I don't know if the powers that be, the real powers that be at USC, not Pat Haden, but the people above him, are in the thought that maybe Haden needs to go too. But Haden kind of hitched his wagon to Sarkisian. And if this is the kind of person that maybe he's going to associate himself with, then maybe we need to think about what's going on with Pat Haden. Keep in mind, last year Haden went from the press box to the sideline to defend his coach. So the two are together, joined at the hip. And any separation that is caused or tries to be caused by Haden at this point is just him trying to save himself for his job, which, for the record, he doesn't need to do. Like, he came back because the USC people begged him to come back. I think he could easily walk away, and it could be the best for him and for the university, and that might be what needs to happen. So I don't know who the next athletic director is going to be, but obviously the first question is who the next coach is going to be.
That's a good question. As I don't see anybody from around the Pac-12, jumping schools and, like he did from Washington to USC. I mean, the name that comes up, this is Chip Kelly. And I don't know if he wants to come back to the West Coast. I mean, he's an East Coast guy, and that kind of plays a part, but it is USC, and the amount of resources that they would have and the recruiting that they would have, that he would have at his fingertips in terms of just Southern California and the offense that he would like to run, that he runs. It would be interesting to see what a guy like Chip could do at USC. But other than Chip, I don't know. I mean, I don't know who would want to go there. I mean, you wouldn't have to worry about, sanctions or anything like that. There would just be this cloud of kind of gloom and doom over the program because of what Sark did. But, really the only name that's come up right now is Chip. I mean, what do you think about Chip going down there?
No, but I don't. That would be ridiculous for him to go there. I think that's terrible in so many levels. But how about Kyle Whittingham? Oh, Kyle?
You know what? I don't know if he'd go. I think he likes it. I think at Utah, I think he likes what he has going at Utah, especially, obviously right now, things are going really well for him, but I don't see him jumping ship from Salt Lake to LA right now.
Chris Peterson.
He interviewed for the job before Sark did when he was at Boise State. So I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if he might pick up the phone if they called, but he seems to like what he has up in Washington. He's a Northwest guy as well. So, he may be in a situation where he's comfortable. And, coaches are creatures of comfort, and they like what they got and like where they are. There's no reason for him to leave. But, if he took the call one time, who's to say he's not going to take it a second time?
Does Pat Haden survive this?
Man, that's a good question. But as soon as he went from the press box to the field to defend his coach, like you said, we all saw it. He hitched his wagon to Sarkisian, and if Sarkisian goes, and like you said, you brought up a great point, Damien, about maybe for the good of the program, and he's a USC guy, and he knows what that program means to college football, the Pac-12, and just in its fans in general. He might realize that for the betterment of the program that he does need to step aside. I don't. That's a good question right now. I just don't know if he stays or not. You could ask me 3 hours from now and be like, nah, he's going to leave. You could ask me 2 days from now, and I'd say, oh, he's staying. He'll survive this, But I don't know. If, like you said, he hitched his hip to Sarkisian, and if Sarkisian doesn't survive it right now, my mind would tell me no, that he's not going to survive.
All right, Mike, tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, you can find me at campuspressbox.com, writing about all things Pac-12. You can find me on Twitter at pigskinopinion. You can even email me at mike.wilson@campuspressbox.com.
I am Damien Bowman. You can find me on Twitter at DAMIENBOWMAN. You can also email me, damien.bowman@campuspressbox.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the SEC 411 with Seth Marenblum and Bird LaCroix. Have pretty big guests coming up this week, so I think that will be worth the price of admission for you. We are on iTunes and Pocket Cast and TuneIn Radio and SoundCloud too. So soundcloud.com/4lightsfm, all one word. Thanks for listening and have a great day.